Hello, everybody, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Wednesday, the 24th of January. Um, uh, you cannot tell from the mess behind me, but I am beginning to try to work through things and get ready for my move. And one of the things I found was a whole pile of resources that have these sticky things, these colored tabs, from place things that gave me ideas for Church at Home over the years, because I've been doing this for a couple of years now. And this one I dug up is from July, August, September of 2022. So it's just over a year old. So I'm going to use these for a couple of church homes in the next week or so. And this one was from Saturday, August the 13th, 2022. And it's based on Luke chapter 10, verse 27. Love your neighbor as yourself. And as I said, they're from Our Daily Bread. These are really great resources if you have just a couple of minutes and you want to have a devotion every day. You can look up Our Daily Bread online and you can order them. They're really reasonable. And often churches will have them to give away. My churches usually do. This one is called Monstro the Goldfish. Lacey Scott was at her local pet store when a sad fish at the bottom of the tank caught her eye. His scales had turned black and lesions had formed on his body. Lacey rescued the 10-year-old fish, named him Monstro after the whale in the fairy tale Pinocchio, and placed him in a hospital tank, changing his water daily. Slowly, Monstro improved, began to swim, and grew in size. His black scales transformed to gold. Through Lacey's committed care, Monstro was made new. In Luke 10, Jesus tells the story of a traveler who was beaten, robbed, and left for dead. Both a priest and a Levite passed by, ignoring the man's suffering. But a Samaritan, a member of a despised people group, took care of him, even paying for his needs. Pronouncing the Samaritan as the true neighbor in the story, Jesus encouraged his listeners to do the same. What Lacey did for a dying goldfish, we can do for people in need around us. Homeless, unemployed, disabled, and lonely neighbors lie in our path. Let us allow their sadness to catch our eyes and draw us to respond with neighborly care. A kind greeting, a shared meal, a few dollars slipped from palm to palm. How might God use us to offer his love to others, a love which can make all things new? I really love that story. It's one of those feel good stories, isn't it? I should have used this for Feel Good Friday. Um, it's a reminder, especially for me as a priest, it's a reminder to me that it was a priest who walked past the poor man who was lying in the ditch in the story in Luke. And some of us who work and profess and our role is it is we're paid to help other people, to be compassionate. Sometimes it can be hard to remember that in the midst of everything else we do. And sometimes it's hard to even see that person who's lying in the ditch. Have you ever had one of those days when you're so consumed with your lists and what you have to get done? You got to pick up the kids, you got to finish this for work, you got to drop this off, that you're so absolutely bamboozled by everything else in your life that you don't see the most obvious things in front of you. Have you ever had one of those days? I had one of those days. I had to take my stepson to cadets, and we lived in Halifax, and cadets was on in Shearwater, which is on the other side of the bridge. And it was just it took a while to get there to given times. On the way home after cadets, it was quick, 15-minute drive. But it could be half an hour more going to cadets because of the timing. So I was, I got make an evening of it. So you got to plan this, you got to do this, this, and this. So I had it all set. I was going to drop Dan off at cadets, and then I was going to take my computer to the local library in Shearwater, near Shearwater, and I was going to write a sermon for Sunday, and I was going to try to remember to pick up some groceries before I picked Dan up for cadets and take him and go home. Okay, so dropped Dan off at cadets, wrote my sermon at the library, ran to the grocery store, picked up some things, got in the car, and I was on the bridge before I remembered why I was in Shearwater over the bridge in the first place. Dan. I had to go back over the bridge, finish my trip on the bridge, turn around and come back. And there was a toll bridge. So I had to pay a toll both ways going back and forth extra because I was so distracted by what I was worried about and thinking about that I forgot about Dan. Now, I managed to get back in time to pick him up. He never knew the difference, and I never did tell him the story. So he doesn't watch these videos, so I'm safe. But one of my not so great moments as a stepmom. forgot my kid. He wasn't 5, he was 16 at the time, so he would have been okay. But the point is, we get so distracted that we don't see the very things that we need to see in front of us. And I don't think that for a second that anybody, intended for little Monstro to get sick and to be dying in that pet store. I think probably it was more a matter of neglect rather than, um, you know, absent-mindedness rather than intentional neglect. And we're often like that in life. We just get so busy and we're so distracted by everything that needs to get done that we unintentionally neglect some of the very most important things that need to get done. And when we take the time to reach out to someone or to do that thing that we haven't done, what might we find? I think sometimes it might indeed be reaching out to a homeless person or reaching out to someone out there and finding something else out. But it may not be that drastic. We have all in our communities, we have homeless people. It doesn't matter how big or small your community is. There are people who are homeless. And when I say that, they may not be sleeping on the street, but they might be couch surfing, staying at a friend's until the friend gets sick of them and then they move someplace else and things like that. But we also have people in our lives who are, they may not be houseless, but they're homeless in their souls. They may have a roof over their head, and food in their refrigerator. But do they have a house? Do they have a home? Do they have people who love them, people who check in on them? Quite often, I have found that when I've moved into new places, and this is not throwing shade on any previous priests, things happen. But I have moved into places where I've gone in and I do my work of looking at the parish list and seeing who shows up on Sundays and those people who don't, and giving them a call and saying, "Can I come out and visit you?" And time after time, I have discovered that there are people who are parts of our community that we acknowledge and we think, "Oh, we haven't seen him in so long, and so in a while, or we haven't seen her out for quite some time. We should really give them a call." And then life happens and we don't. But I've run into people who I've gone to see them, and or I call them and said, "Let's meet for coffee." And what I see is a really, I see someone who is like Monstro, someone who looks like they don't have lesions, but they do. They look like they're worn out and they're tired and they're depressed and they're lonely. And then when they're encouraged to get back involved, to come out to church, to come out for a meeting, to celebrate, to have coffee again, they begin to heal. And the gold that truly is who they are begins to shine again. We all get tarnished. We all have those seasons in our lives when we just go like stink and burn ourselves out and nobody seems to appreciate us. And our gold, the beautiful elements of who we really are, they get tarnished, they get blackened, and then sometimes they even get lesions. And we need to recognize that there are people in our lives who understand that from firsthand experience. We've all been there. We've all felt that ourselves. And we all need to take a moment to recognize that we need to take care of ourselves, to polish ourselves up. But just as much as it's important that we polish ourselves up and take care of ourselves, we need to reach out and take a look for those people in our lives that might need some polishing themselves. Who are the monstros in our world? Who are those people who are suffering silently, who might need us to reach out for them? Yes, indeed, sometimes we are those very people who need someone to reach out. But even if we are right now feeling like we are blackened and we have lesions, some of the healing that we might find for ourselves might be in us reaching out to another person. Because if we can reach out to another and brush away some of the blackness, that the gold that is truly within them starts to shine, they might then do the same for us. I get it. You might be tired and you might be feeling beaten and broken down. And that this you may be saying, "Rachel, I am the one who needs to be reached out to." But I'm asking you to do the same for another, because it is in the reaching out to each other that we gain the most. When you reach out to help that goldfish be gold again, they can in turn reach out to help you. Or another might be doing that for you and you don't even realize it. So take some time today to think of who is that person that you might need to reach out to. Who haven't you seen for a while? Who might need to pick me up? Who might need a really bad dad joke or knock knock joke over the phone? Or who might need you to just say, I'm coming over to get you. We're going out for coffee. Take your pajamas off and put on something appropriate because we're going to go to Tim Hortons or Dunkin' Donuts or McDonald's or so and so's living room. Even if you're the one who has to get out of your pajamas to do it in the first place, it's worth it. It is worth it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Allow them to love you, and you'll see the world change. Have a great day. God bless. And I'll see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel.